Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our PGA DFS picks for the John Deere Classic being held starting on July 13th, 2017. If you thought last week was a weak field, then I don't really know what to say about this week, as things are just as bad, if not worse, in terms of the type of field this week. I want to take a look at four golfers, but before we do, let's just talk a little bit about the course. It's a par 71, 7,268 yard course, should be high scoring, held at the TPC Deere Run course in Silvis, Illinois. I believe I read on one of Rob Bolton's articles on PGA.com that this course actually has very consistent scoring, so that is definitely a plus. We know what to expect. Should be a fun weekend for DFS. I'm not going to put too much emphasis onto past performance here. I'm putting most of my emphasis on the key stats that we have chosen. I believe that the recent form and how a person is playing this year will far outproduce just a basic course history model, which I do know is somewhat popular. At least it's a consideration for a lot of daily fantasy players. Let's actually start with Daniel Berger, 17.9 fantasy draft, 9,900 FanDuel, 11.3 Draftkings. Like I mentioned in the article, the way things ship up this week, it just seems top heavy. Just seems like that's going to be where you want to fit in, and thankfully we don't have Dustin Johnson on the schedule, so we're not looking at any 13K type players, but nonetheless 11.3 on DraftKings is still a pretty high price tag to play. Honestly, all of his course stats here are between 16th and 39th, including recent form. If anybody just picks up and runs away with this tournament, I would put my money on Berger. And I don't typically just gravitate towards the top-priced guy. In fact, most of the time I do what I can to try to find any other option, but because of the price. But this week, everything has me going back to Berger. He's where I'm going to start building my lineups. He's where I'm going to finish building my lineups. Can't say how much I really like him this week. Next up, let's go with Charles Howell III, 15.9 fantasy draft, 7,700 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. I was kind of debating between he and Kyle Stanley here. They actually have somewhat of a similar profile, at least when it comes to their inability to regularly putt well. I don't think that's going to impact this course. I think it's going to be mostly on the irons and wedges here, and with Howell having top 12 rankings in par 4 and 5 scoring, as well as greens and regulation, I do think that this is a course that he could definitely, I'm going to try to stop saying definitely, it's a habit of mine, but this is someone who should be able to put together a strong score. It's one of those situations where you see the price and you're like, God, I just don't want to pay 9K for Charles Howell III. But that's kind of where you have to be this week, based on the fact that there's just not that much quality competition out there. Struggles to put himself in a position to win events, but I think at this price he could do well enough to be on the tournament winning lineup by the end of the week. Next up, let's go Jamie Lovemark, a 16K fantasy draft, 7,900 FanDuel, 9,300 DraftKings, rounding into shape as of late. Still not great with the putter, but everything else is really good, including a 8th ranking in par 4 scoring, top 65 in all of our other stats outside of putting. Had a really nice showing at the Greenbrier Classic last week. I expect him to come back firing here again this week. I want to throw Kevin Kisner out there, but we've definitely spent up a lot this week. So let's go to Chad Campbell, 14.7 fantasy draft, 6,600 FanDuel, 7,600 DraftKings. I know we just got through saying that, we don't want to look at a guy's course history, and that's what it seems like we're doing here, considering he's sitting at 28th, 13th, 15th, and 36th in his last 4 trips here. Didn't play last year. And that's very good for someone in his price range. If you're telling me I could get a potential top 15 with Chad Campbell at 6,600, 7,600, 14,700, I'm going to do it, especially on FanDuel and Draftkings. I'm definitely going to look at that pricing, and it makes a lot of sense to try to work some Chad Campbell in there. While he does struggle with putting, all of his other stats are 45th or better in the remaining 5 stats. So this isn't just a course horse, if you will. This is a guy who's playing well enough this year that he actually sets up very well to play in this tournament. I think that these little weak field tournaments are where he's most likely to have his success, and I think he makes a great tournament option this week. That'll wrap it up. Once again, our 4 favorite tournament options: Chad Campbell, Jamie Lovemark, Charles Howell III, Daniel Berger. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check us out at researchfantasy.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Like us on Facebook at Research Fantasy. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.